But yeah, if anyone wants one, come and see me. They're called What a Way to Make a Living. And yeah, this is my last one, and it's kind of continuing from the theme I just started off on, and also like the one that Harriet started. I just kind of want to continue on that, if that's okay. Like, this is like, in total respect of what you just did. And it might not make that much sense if you haven't seen the film Interstellar. If you haven't seen the film Interstellar, it's basically Inception in space. And if you haven't seen Inception, then I really just don't know where you've been to this. So yeah, apologies if it ruins the film if you want to see it. But I won't. I mean, it might, whatever. It's been in cinemas for so long now that, like, if you haven't seen it, then you probably won't. And yeah, it's called What My Life Would Be Like If It Was Written by Christopher Nolan. And this is like brand new. Well, semi. Yeah, anyway. A year ago today, I was having sex. I'm sorry if that's crude or inappropriate, but it's true. I was having sex with you. I know I was there. And I know for a fact I've got the date right because I have a certificate. Not for the sex, that would be weird, but for the reason we were having middle of the night celebration sex. That kind of all-consuming consummation that only happens in films and studio flats in northwest London, on top of the duvet, on your side of the bed, on November 14th, 2013. That kind of rough but real sex that in retrospect wasn't between us at all, but was for me, because of me, and all about me. And no, I don't mean it like that. I'm sure you got yours. I'm struggling to remember the specifics, but if we're going on an average, you probably enjoyed it more than I did, but that's okay. If I remember rightly, it wasn't about that. I needed you, and as always, you obliged. But now, November, 1 year on, and I'm staring at that date framed in a room I've been staying in since I ripped you from my side, like it holds that night in perfect conservation. As if our bodies combine around each printed number, stamping our reckless sensuality onto paper to remain forever there in golden-framed remembrance of us. I mean, there aren't many objects in this room that immediately take me back to such a specific time, place, and action. Not dated, anyway. No messages in the books that line my walls, dropping to the floor with the gravity of this specific memory. Sorry, that was a reference to something I mentioned in the bit before the title. In fact, I'd like to go back to the introduction to this if I can and tell myself to stop before I start. To remind the me that's talking now that she might regret what she's about to say, or by this point, if she doesn't listen, has already said. But she is in full flow now, and so she doesn't listen to me, and I remain outside myself looking in, unaware which me is that's speaking and who it is I'm warning. And I want to tell you something new. But someone once told me that every story that exists has already been told, which makes anything I say to you already seem old, but surely that's only true of fiction, and no one could make this up however hard they try. A few days ago, I watched a man travel further than most minds can comprehend, only in order to return to a moment in his life over and over. And granted, I was watching from the safety of a cinema seat, but that didn't stop me from going back in my mind to the moment where I kissed you suggestively, rousing you from sleep with the knowledge that you would give me release for the excitement that I brought home in a frame that would eventually commemorate something that hadn't yet happened, unaware that it would be in our most intimate moment that I would start to pull away at light year speed. And I might as well be as far as Saturn right now as I live both that moment and this simultaneously. In the film, the man is both himself and the self that he was, both the catalyst and the consequence, and I understand that paradox as I live both the action and the result. As I take you in my arms over and over while the other me, the older me, whose hands have got used to holding themselves, stands over a double bed that she no longer owns and shouts at a couple that no longer exist to stop before they start. You are making a mistake that can never be undone. By doing this, you are unraveling a well-tied knot of her loving you because you love her and consoling her when she doesn't win. And this is the night when everything changes and you could stay the same if you want to. I might as well be screaming this in fucking binary because I'm ignored like I exist only in a time loop, which reminds me of a conversation I had with my father once. I'm sat back to wall outside the bathroom while he shaves or brushes his teeth or something not relevant to the memory. He is telling me that time travel is impossible, and I'm arguing back in an 8-year-old way, but he wins and I laugh and we go for breakfast in the market behind Liverpool Street, or that could be a separate memory amalgamated together for the sake of clinging on to faded times gone by. And as child me sits outside a bathroom I haven't used since, I ignore myself, my future self, standing inches away, clinging to my father like a limpet that he is unaware of as he wins our argument and laughs and takes me for breakfast, all the while oblivious to the fact that he is holding the hands of his daughter then and now. One as real as ever and the other existing only in a metaphor that simultaneously I am sharing on stage years in the future. Future me, which for you is the me that's talking now, delves deep into her memory to both keep her father alive for a moment in time and simultaneously prove him wrong. Time travel does exist. Because if it didn't, I couldn't be both there and now, and if I couldn't be there, then I would forget him and he would continue to not exist, and so I believe in science fiction. I believe in time travel, not as a concept to progress the human race, but to keep my father alive, which sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's the storyline to a film I saw, which means this is beginning to sound a lot like fiction, and therefore a story that has already been told. Which, of course, it has. Last November. A year ago today, I wrote a piece about my father, about it being 12 years since he passed, and how in the future I would move past the point of no return, and now it's like time's got stuck and I'm both past that point and living it and nothing has changed. Like the rings of Saturn, I spin around this subject every year until I'm dizzy with thoughts of death, and every version of myself is caught in this loop of everything that will ever be, and sometimes it feels like I'm floating through space with nothing to stop me from falling through a black hole of all the things I've lost, and I don't even have Anne Hathaway to keep me company. Or my father. I don't even have you, because we did have the sex that started all this, and I don't have enough special effects to recreate our fireworks. All I have is a cinema stub for a film I saw, a muddled and difficult to prove definition of time travel, and a frame certificate dated a year ago today. And I wanted this to be more coherent. I wanted to find a way to represent the relevance of the moments we take for granted, and somehow find a way to comprehend how every year that rolls by takes me further from the people I've lost, and I wanted to tie it all together neatly, like a story, so even if it is familiar, it ends somehow. And I wanted to make it rhyme. I don't think I did any of those things. I think I'll leave that kind of stuff to Christopher Nolan in future. He seems to know what he's doing after all.